When a human becomes a Witcher, the mutation is permanent and irreversible. Well, at least as far as is believed among researchers. Jerome Moreau was the son of Thomas Moreau, a researcher and professor. In 1087, Thomas was wandering through the woods at night. This is a stupid thing to do, and he would quickly find out why, when he was attacked by a monster. Luckily for him, he was saved by a Witcher from the School of the Griffin, who demanded the law of surprise. And while he was lucky to be saved, this resulted in him losing his son Jerome, something he would gladly have died for if he could just have his son stay normal. Jerome was taken to Tyen'sail to become a Witcher. It was quite surprising how well Jerome underwent the mutations. They seemed to have barely had any side effects on him, and to most people, he just looked like the average tall, thin man, if it wasn't for the swords on his back and his eyes. But not only did Jerome get through the mutations without issues, he got through them with his emotions completely intact. Meanwhile, as Jerome was going around slaying monsters, his father Thomas, on the other hand, was searching for a way to cure him. He made a secret laboratory in the Valley of the Nine in Toussaint, in the ruins of a forgotten city. To prevent others from disturbing him, he had several traps installed, which included spikes, magical cougar statues, and a door with a hidden opening mechanism. And that's not even to mention the portal room one had to go through to find his laboratory. In all peace and quiet, he could now study everything he could find about Witchers in hopes to cure his son. Thomas spent 2 decades researching and experimenting. In this time, he had made several breakthroughs and thought to have found a way to cure his son of his mutations. In his journal's notes, as well as the megascope entries, the professor talks about the test subject that he had acquired, on which he performed his experiments before he would contact Jerome to lure him to him. It seems therefore likely that the professor managed to kidnap another Witcher as well, on which he performed the experiments first to make sure his son would survive. I assume that this is the Witcher or man that you can see in the vat in his laboratory. The experiments on the other possible Witcher were successful in the eyes of Thomas. He gained hope that he could turn his son into a normal human again, and thus contacted him in 1121. While hiding his name, he offered his son a contract to slay a beast in Fort Tyen'sail. It was a little odd that Jerome was paid up front, and when he eventually asked the captain of the fort who was behind the contract, he told him it was a mage named Moreau. Upon hearing the name, Jerome became angry. He seemed to have some issues with his father from his early youth, but to what reason I'm not quite sure. It could be that he blamed him for being a Witcher. Jerome charged straight towards Montcron Castle, where his father at the time seemed to have been. Upon arriving, Thomas hit him with a paralyzing spell, to calm him down, for he hoped his son would see his intentions and agree to partake in his experiments. He locked Jerome up in a room, to calm down and think about it. Jerome, however, had no idea what his father wanted to do with him, and it seemed like he thought he was out to kill him, as the last note we find of Jerome indicates that he is convinced that he would die in the room he was locked up in. But there is no skeleton in the room, and his father would only soon after start his experiments on him. From earlier experiments, Thomas thought he knew how to cure Jerome. However, things would not work out as planned. Each mutation that was meant to make Jerome normal again only made him stronger, faster, and less human. Eventually, in 1122, Thomas gave up. Instead of curing Jerome, he had made him a more powerful Witcher. The professor left behind his laboratory and went back to his wife in the hopes that she would take him back. He had come to terms with the fact that his son would be a Witcher till the end of time. But what happened to Jerome? There is some information that seems a bit conflicting. For example, before he went to Fort Tyen'sail, he had commissioned Grandmaster Griffin armor from the elven smith Tyen'sail, but he never returned for it. And as its armor is expensive and of great use to a Witcher, Why wouldn't he come back for it if he was still alive? Therefore, there are some that believe that Jerome has died. In Gwent, however, it is said that Thomas burned the remains of his filled subject, which can be seen in the vat. But there are 2 vats. And why would he burn his own son, who only became stronger? It doesn't make much sense, and due to how often he mentioned a test subject and referred to his son as Jerome, it seemed like he burned the body belonging to a possible other Witcher that was experimented on. This, therefore, could mean that Jerome is still out there, hunting monsters. The reason he might have left Toussaint without claiming his armor might have been due to him just wanting to leave that place, and his father behind completely. His father Thomas is referred to as a professor, but seems to be able to use magic, while not benefiting from the expanded lifespan or the lack of aging. It therefore seems like he was a human using magic, but not a full-on sorcerer, which is somewhat interesting. But what do you think of Jerome? Did he leave his laboratory alive, or did he die? Till the next video. Bye.